Another very popular New Year's resolution is weight loss. A great way to lose weight is to increase your whole grains and fiber. Our dietitian, Kay Fisher, is going to show us a really delicious way to do just that. Hi, and welcome to Staying Healthy. I'm Andrea Walker, your host, and today I'm with Kay Fisher, our head of our Nutrition Services Department and our registered dietitian at Waldo County General Hospital.
Hello.
And we also have Faye, who is the kitchen supervisor, with us today, and it's January, New Year's resolution time, and hopefully, even if you're seeing this show later in January, you're still sticking to your resolutions, and if one of them is eating healthier or losing weight, getting more whole grains and fiber is a great way to do that. And today, Kay's going to show us a recipe that is delicious, healthy, and high in fiber. Is that right, Kay?
It is,
Wonderful.
and loaded with nutrients. This recipe is called fettuccine with cranberry beans and pesto. And we found this recipe in a Williams and Sonoma vegetarian cookbook. And it's a really good vegetarian main dish because it combines grain and beans. And whenever you have a bean and grain combination, you have a perfect protein. And so it can be your main dish. It's also very high in fiber because the fettuccine that we used in this recipe has a lot of fiber in it. You can use pastas like Barilla Plus, or you can use whole wheat pastas, and so then you have lots of fiber along with the fiber in the beans. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the pesto, and so we have these chopped basil leaves, and Faye is going to put all this stuff in the blender. Now lots of pestos call for either something like pine nuts or cashews in the blender, but this time we're not going to put the pine nuts in the pesto in the blender. They're going to be added later for extra crunch. And so right now she's putting in the basil, she's putting in Parmesan cheese, and we had this stuff already kind of done ahead because we knew we didn't have very much time. And now we're putting in some olive oil. And now this is going to have to get blended. And so we wanted you to see the fresh ingredients, so we didn't blend it ahead of time. But so it isn't too noisy, we're going to let Tony take the blender out and blend it somewhere else while we're talking about the rest of the recipe.
Smells so good. Now, do pine nuts have fiber in them?
Pine nuts are very high in fiber and loaded with nutrients and healthy oils, and also adds a little more protein to the dish.
Wonderful. And you can get fresh basil at Hannaford any time of year?
Anytime.
Wonderful.
Anytime.
And can't you grow, you can grow basil?
Yes, all the lucky people who grow basil. It's not that difficult to grow, and it was really good for you in very many different kinds of recipes.
Wonderful.
And it makes really, it's usually the main ingredient in a pesto, but there's all kinds of pestos. Now some people will tell you that you haven't really made pesto unless you use one of these, unless you chop it with a knife instead of in the blender.
Oh.
And they use one of these knives. You might have seen them, they have two handles.
Yes.
And they're moon shaped, and it's called a mezzaluma, luma for the moon. And they and by chopping it that way, they think that's the real way because you have not as fine of a chop and there's separate flavors in your pesto. Right. But we're helping you learn how to do things that are quick and easy.
Wonderful.
And that's the reason why we're doing it in the blender. But if you want to do it with a knife, you know, you're more than welcome. Now the next thing is the beans, and we'll show you the beans that we have. And these are cranberry beans. Now,
cranberry beans. I've never heard of a cranberry bean.
Yeah, a cranberry bean. We looked everywhere for some cranberry beans and didn't find them. So I looked it up in my food dictionary and found out that shell beans and cranberry beans are the same thing.
But cranberry beans sounds so much prettier.
It does, doesn't it? And so they are more red before you cook them.
All right.
So these have already been cooked. Okay. And they lose a little bit of the redness after you cook them. But in this part of the country, they're mostly called shell beans, and you can buy them like dried and cook them up, or you can get canned ones if you're in a hurry.
And canned beans are just as healthy as
fresh? And canned beans are just as healthy.
Wonderful.
They're a little bit more expensive than cooking up your own, but you know, if you're in a hurry, this is a good way to eat healthy.
Wonderful.
And so now they've gone out to mix up the pasta,
All right.
I mean the pesto, and so now we have this bowl of fettuccine here.
Oh, that looks delicious. And
Yep.
this is the Barilla Plus?
This is Barilla Plus.
All right.
So if a person is not used to whole grain, whole wheat pasta, this is a good intermediary,
All
but it
right.
also has all kinds of good things in it. If you read the box on the Barilla Plus, you'll be impressed with the ingredients in this pasta.
And is this as good for you as whole wheat?
Well, it's not quite as high in fiber,
All right.
but
That's still good.
and it has dried legume flours in it, and that's
Oh.
what makes it really healthy.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. I've had that kind of pasta before, and my family isn't crazy about whole wheat, but they really like that.
Yes. So now we have sautéed onions and garlic. And you know what? We didn't have a big enough glass bowl. So we have everything else in glass bowls just so you can see the pretty ingredients. But we didn't have a big enough glass bowl to mix everything. And so what we have here is we have our pasta, we have our shell beans, we have sautéed onions and garlic, and we have vegetable stock, we have pine nuts, and now this is our pesto that we blended. And so all these things go together in the pan. Do you see how easy that is?
Oh, wonderful. Now, the onions, are they sautéed in oil and in butter, or does
There's-
the pasta go in first?
Yes.
All right.
And you sauté, how did you saute the onions in the virgin olive oil?
All right.
Okay. And so now we're just going to mix all those things together.
And you just dump everything in? It doesn't have to go in any particular order
No.
or anything? Wonderful. Now, because this doesn't, do you usually serve this with a vegetable? Or,
Yes, and,
yeah?
and we'll get this all mixed up and we'll show you how it looks on the plate.
Wonderful.
Because we had some, actually we served this dish in the cafeteria today.
Oh.
And so we made up a little plate to bring along because this still needs to be cooked. Baked to bring it up to a food safe temperature.
All
This pan will go on our steam table this evening for supper in the cafeteria. And so there's our shell beans, and
generally speaking, you have a vegetarian option at the cafeteria?
we
or-
usually do. If it's not a main dish, it's a soup or different kinds of sandwiches or whatever. Okay, so while Faye is mixing all those ingredients together, I'll show you what the final plate looks like. In this particular one, we served it with Brussels sprouts. Broccoli looks nice too.
Oh, that is beautiful.
If we would have thought, we would have put some fresh basil on top for a garnish.
And for people who thought they didn't like Brussels sprouts, I used to think I did not like Brussels sprouts, and then I tried them in the cafeteria, and they're actually really very, very, very delicious.
And I ate this for lunch today, and it was awesome.
It's wonderful. I'm excited to try this. My oldest daughter
Good.
is a vegetarian, and she will absolutely love this. So
Great.
I encourage all of you to log on to the WCHI website and click on the Staying Healthy button. There'll be the video for this recipe showing us make it, and also a copy of the recipe. So try it and let us know what you think. I did the pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and my whole family absolutely loved it. Thank you, ladies,
Awesome.
very much, and enjoy.
Thank you.